Hello everyone, this is Scarzig, and welcome back to another episode of Duelyst. I know it's been a long time. I'll have to apologize for that. I was having trouble, honestly, coming up with a fresh deck to show off to you beautiful people. And two, I did take on a side project for a friend of mine, and that ended up eating up a lot of my free time that I would normally, the time slots that I normally had reserved for recording videos. Ended up getting eaten up by this other project. So I do apologize for the delay, for the unexpected hiatus, but we have still been productive. I've been putting a lot more time into my stream, but we are back today, and we do have something a little new. We are playing Zir'an. This is a mid-range Zir'an deck that I did work up, and basically you just survive the early game, and then establish a board, and then you just roll your opponent over from there. It's very... I suppose to draw the parallel, it feels very priesty to me. But we do have 3 Azurite Lions, 3 Healing Mystics, 2 Lasting Judgment, a really great removal spell overall for Linar. It's not as valuable as it used to be because Circulus was removed. This was one of Linar's really good ways to deal with Circulus. But it's still great. Again, just a 2-mana way to deal with 2 3s. Or really anything with 3 HP. Like, you can just kill a Lantern Fox or an Ooze or something. That's the good thing about Lasting Judgment, is that it doesn't actually deal damage, so you can sidestep a lot of those more problematic units. We've also got 2 Lucent Beams. This just gives us a little bit more removal, and it can go face, so that 4 damage could matter in the late game, where you're doing like Sunriser combos, finishing off your opponent, bursting them down. We've also got 2 Sunblooms for Dispel. It's something that Linar really does need. Gives you a way to deal with backline passive effects, or just something problematic you wouldn't be able to deal with otherwise, like maybe Reaper of the Nine Moons, things of that nature, a Mara Healer, that sort of thing. We've also got 2 Tempest, just as a way to deal with Swarm. You'll see that this deck is called the Toolbox, has a little bit of everything, just to deal with basically any emergent situations. We've got 3 Windblade Adepts, 2 copies of Martyrdom. We don't really need 3 of them anymore since Arcanist is sort of, dying down a little bit, which is nice. So 2 Martyrdom just to deal with really big threats. And again, this is really great, especially in the early game. We've got 3 Scintillas, 3 Silverguard Knights, 2 Holy Immolations, 2 Sunrisers, 3 Trinity Oaths, 2 Circle of Life, 2 Dancing Blades, and 3 Ironcliff Guardians. So again, this deck is just designed to basically stay even with the opponent, and then you start to pull ahead when you get your Ironcliff Guardians and stuff online. Notable omissions from this deck do include no Sunforge Lancers and no Divine Bonds. Ironcliff Guardian is really the only minion in the deck that has severe synergy with Divine Bond. And I know that the Afterglow does make Divine Bond a little bit better, a bit more consistent. It's simply that, again, it doesn't really do enough. We already have a lot of spells in the deck, so putting in the Divine Bonds is something very, very hard to find room for. But if you, I don't know, maybe if you don't really like Tempest or something, like if there's like a couple spells that you would like to cut, then putting in Divine Bond could be a better slot for you. Or maybe even After Blaze might be a little bit better. Like if you don't like Sunblooms, or you don't like Tempest and you want to cut those, or maybe Circle of Life doesn't really sit with your playstyle if you think it's a bit too expensive. Maybe you put in After Blaze or something. Potential for card draw, a little bit of burst damage gives you something tanky. It was something that I did consider, just hard for me to make room for. So I really like this spread. The Circle of Life is pretty expensive for removal. I think we also replace the Sunriser here because we kind of want that to come back to us a little bit later in the game when we have more mana, something to combo with. So this is really nice. We get our 2-drop opening. We get the Tempest just in case. Wow, 2 Tempest, fine. And so with this play, we have the Silverguard or the Scintilla to play on 3 mana if our Azurite Lion gets answered. And I actually haven't been seeing a lot of Vanar on the ladder. This deck has been doing really well for me, but I've been running mostly into Argion and Riva. A friend of mine told me that he's been running into nothing but Magmar and Mech decks, so I guess that, those deck groupings, those factions are starting to like really get concentrated in certain parts of the ladder. Oh wow, Arcanist. Okay, so let's see how this deck goes down. Polarity. Okay. So this is like the Owl Punch variant. Normally this is run in Kara because she gives the +1/+1. Wow, that's really rude. Polarity and a double mana Death Grip. My opponent is now down to 2 cards in hand, and I think I'm like sitting pretty here. I suppose the ultimate precaution would be to just kill the Mana Forger and Tempest. You know what I mean? To just make sure it dies, but then I don't have anything to follow up with. So instead, we're just going to Silver Guard and hit here, kill the Mana Forger. He already basically got enough value out of his ability, right, to cast 3 spells there, but basically this next card in his hand would have to be like a Trinity Wing or something. Oh, Jesus! That explains why he went for such a crazy play. But I'm not really too worried about this thing, because it's just a 4/4. Without an Owl Beast Sage to follow up with all this stuff, I'm not really worried. Because now he just has, you know, the teachings of the dragon. I just need to focus on keeping his board clear. The Tempest is really going to help us with that. And he's going to use the lessons right now to deal with the Silver Guard. So now I don't need to worry about the lessons buffing up an Owl Beast Sage. Okay, so I can walk down, ramp to 5, play Iron Cliff in his face. But that still leaves a Mana Forger up, which I'm kind of iffy about. I could also take mana. No, I don't want to play the Scintilla because the Trinity Wing just trades into it. So I think I will just Iron Cliff here. Basically force him to have removal. And if, say, he turns the Iron Cliff into a fox, maybe he just wants to punch it with the Trinity Wing rather than using his general. And then I can Tempest to clear all of this. So yeah, we're just going to take this mana tile and provoke this. I suppose the real question is do I want to keep the Trinity Oath? I suppose I'll hang on to it, because Trinity Oath is one of those cards that I'm like, oh no, I don't need the healing, I don't need the card draw right now, and so I'll replace it looking for something else, and then 2 turns later, you know, man, I really wish I had some card draw, so I think we are going to keep the Trinity Oath. Because Zir'an does rely on a lot of combos. You usually need to use multiple cards and a lot of heal synergies and jump through some hoops to deal with threats. Our opponent, you can see, is actually on 7 mana, but, you know, this doesn't really matter for us. There's the Owl Beast. Okay, uses the lesson of wisdom to heal herself. Yeah, so that's really problematic that our opponent had all those cards to deal with R2 drop, into Trinity Wing to reload, into Owl Beast. That's really obnoxious. But the fact that Circulus is missing from this equation is pretty good for us. So we can actually use Dancing Blades, Ironcliff Guardian, and our General to kill the Owl Beast Sage. But what I'm going to do is replace looking for a Martyrdom. No, don't get it. I was just talking about how Arcanist was dying down. This is actually the first Arcanist deck I've seen since the nerf to Circulus that really kind of gimped their early game. My opponent, again, is in top deck mode, so as soon as I deal with this board, we come back into the game really, really strongly. And the Mana Forger getting buffed up by the Owl Beast Sage is pretty problematic, but we are just going to go in like this. Having the Dancing Blades is really nice for this deck, being able to deal that little bit of extra damage. We know that Linar struggles to deal with minions that have a lot of HP, but Zir'an has a little bit of an easier time dealing with that simply because she tends to run, you know, more spells, more utility than Argion, where Argion likes to focus on his own game plan, and that's one of the reasons. Not only just lack of tools to do it, but, you know, just the fact when you're running a proactive strategy, you're running out of answers to deal with things overall. Oh my goodness, are you serious? My opponent is like really getting like the perfect sequence of cards here, despite being again in top deck mode. But it's really good that we took out that Owl Beast stage, because a blue Conjurer getting buffed up definitely spells doom for us. And the other good thing, though, about Arcanist decks is that they kind of lack burst. They just rely on getting a board established like this. Basically, she's doing what I'm trying to do with this deck, is just get like a board established and then you slowly beat your opponent down. So, we do have Lasting Judgment to kill the Trinity Wing. And then we can punch the Mana Forger and Tempest. But if we Tempest, it leaves the Dancing Blades as a 4/3. Actually, I can Afterglow. So I can Scintilla, Afterglow. No. Hang on a second. How do I want to do this? Because I don't really care about the Mana Forger too much. Because my opponent is low on cards, and Vanar's spells are already cheap. So I think I just Lasting Judgment, then Scintilla, Afterglow, the Dancing Blades. And then we have Trinity Oath, because I think we can stabilize from here. Do we even keep this Tempest? Nah, probably not worth. Like, we can... And here's the thing. We have card advantage on our opponent. We have the Trinity Oath to get even more card advantage. It's just a matter of, do we have enough time to take advantage of that card, of all the cards that we have up on our opponent? Because this mana gap is going to close in a few turns, so the ramping from Death Grip isn't going to matter that much. And that all-in play with the polarity into double mana Death Grip was like really insane. Then into Trinity, into Owl Beast stage. I wonder what my opponent's opening hand looked like. Mana Forger, polarity, double. Wow, that's just really spectacular, quite frankly. Aether Master is actually really good. I think that this is probably going to be the minion that will replace Circulus, because the 1/3 stat line has proven to be probably a bit more solid than people gave it credit for, and being able to replace in additional time just allows you to fish through your deck for the cards that you need. So you can see my opponent here is just trying to close distance, trying to... oh my god, you got Four Winds Magi off the blue Conjurer! This is going to make it really difficult for me to stabilize. But the good news about this is that my opponent is still very low on cards. Healing Mystic is good. Now I'm regretting replacing the Tempest. So I can Trinity Oath and fish for it. Martyrdom's good. Yeah, so we need to kill the Four Winds Magi, regardless if our opponent's low on cards or not. If I step up and punch this blue Conjurer, that leaves my opponent with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. We're going to go for it. I'm going to take this damage here. Basically betting that my opponent doesn't have 5. excuse me, 6 damage to finish me here. He's got 3, 4. And without Warbird and only 2 cards in hand, that's unlikely. And then perhaps we stabilize from here. Especially if I like get another Scintilla. Or like Circle of Life or something would actually have been really good. That's a good sign. My opponent, of course, does need to take out the Scintilla so I don't keep healing from it. And I wish minions would tell you if they were created from Blue Conjurer. Because this is probably a not a main deck card. So we're going to Martyrdom this thing. It's both of our Martyrdoms to deal with nonsense that came from cards that aren't actually in my opponent's deck. I think we replaced the Azurite Lion because it doesn't really do much for us at this stage of the game. And we're pretty much giving up on taking out the Mana Forger and the Ether Master. The Sunbloom's good, though. Ironcliff is good. Again, getting our hands on another Scintilla would be fantastic here, because then we just stabilize, run away with the game. Now that I'm kind of seeing this this game play out, maybe Sunforged Lancer is a bit better than I've been giving credit for. Sunforged Lancer really rose to prominence in Zir'an, specifically to deal with Shadow Sister Kalino. And, you know, a lot of decks are running healing. Some do, some don't. Oh, Jesus. Like, this makes me feel so bad that my opponent is so low on cards, but is, like, top decking all of these ridiculous threats. Let me see. So, we have to... The Tempest doesn't really help us too much. Circle of Life. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I can play the Windblade Adept. Well, no, I actually lose 3 overall, so I'd go down to 8 HP, but we get to clear the Ghost Seraphim. If we step up like this, we get to punch, and then punch, and we can play Windblade Adept here. Do I Sunbloom this? I could Sunbloom him. Okay, this is an interesting play. We're gonna Sunbloom the enemy general so that he loses that +1 attack, and the Windblade Adept has a higher chance to survive, which I think is going to be important for us, trying to get minions to stick to the board. And the Azurite Lions are really good in the early game for this deck because they allow you to do tricky things with mana tiles. You get, you know, that basically 2 damage just waiting on the outskirts of the fight to help you trade up into things. But later in the game, they do start to fall off because we don't have access to Roar. So again, putting the Afterblaze in the deck would probably bring this thing together, give us a little bit more burst. So there's 2 Ether Masters on board, which means our opponent's just going to be... Excuse me. We're just basically that last card in hand. Yeah, see, my opponent's just trying to whittle me down here. So getting our hands on another Trinity Oath is going to allow us to pull ahead in this fight. Sunriser. Okay, now we're cooking. We can move Windblade here. Man. It's a shame that I can't do both. But I guess we just do this. And I guess we end turn. Or, yeah, we'll end turn. Because if he Hearth Sisters the Iron Cliff, then so be it. I'll take that damage. If he Hearth Sisters the Iron Cliff, that's actually lethal. So I should have stepped back one with my general. Because if he Hearth Sisters, then the Fox hits, he hits, and then Warbirds. So that's a misplay on my part. I should have stepped back and not worried about the Windblade Adept losing its one attack point. But he's only got one card. The problem is that he gets to replace twice. Pardon me, he gets to replace 3 times. Alright, so he's punching the Ironcliff Guardian. That's good for me. We have the Trinity Oath in hand, so finally, I think we get to stabilize. Oh, fuck. Ooh. So he only got a couple Gravity Wells and a Bone Shield Barrier. So we can still fight our way out of this. Nice. Alright, cool. I can move the Ironcliff here, swing the Sunriser around, punch, heal. Oh, yes. So first things first, we Trinity Oath. The Dancing Blades is really good. Actually, we can't. We can use the Windblade Adept here to kill the Bone Shield Barrier, and then Grandmaster Embla dies to the Dancing Blades. Or another option would be to have the Windblade Adept go face. Then we play the second Sunriser, and then heal the Ironcliff Guardian. Actually, we're going to do this. We're going to punch and then heal the Sunriser. Oh my god, wait a minute, that's not lethal because of the Gravity Wells. And there's the Tempest. Holy crap! Are we going to do it? He would need Aspect of the Mountains here to transform that Gravity Well and kill me. Frigid Corona draws a card. Whoo! Holy crap! Now that is a game, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't believe the struggle to stabilize was so real after our opponent went all in like that turn 2. Holy cow. And I made misplays there, for sure. Really exposed myself to certain combinations of cards that could have ended the game. I really lucked out. But, you know, when your opponent's low on cards, the chances of them having the card that they need is significantly reduced. So going second, having the Silver Guard Knight is fantastic. We're going to keep the Trinity Oath. Having the Tempest early like this is great because we could potentially Tempest and Healing Mystic our Silver Guard. All in all, that's really solid. Yeah, this is great. And then we have the second Silver Guard, because when you play Silver Guard number 1 and it gets dealt with and you play the second Silver Guard, your opponent is less likely to, to be able to answer it as efficiently. That's not as true for Vanar. Oh, God. Alright, so we're up against mechs. So against mechs, again, you need to be very proactive. You have to be very aggressive. So we're just going to throw the Silver Guard Knight here. The Tempest is going to be very good in this matchup because we can take out helms, we can take out cannons, we can whittle down chassis and swords of Mechazor. All in all, very good. I'm wondering if we have enough time to play the Trinity Oath. I think we keep it. We do have Sunblooms in the deck, so all is not lost in this matchup. And old school mech matchup knowledge would normally tell Faye to play the Mechazor in melee range so that even if I dispel it, he can still punch me for 8 damage in the face. Oh, man. So, I suppose the best case scenario would be for him to, like, really overcommit here. Damn, Frigid Corona. Ooh, that's really good for me. I'll take that. Frigid Corona on me is she's just saying, I want you to be locked down on your side of the board so I can develop things willy-nilly. I can Silverguard Knight and then Tempest. And then Healing Mystic to heal my Silverguard Knight. Which I think is worth. I'm kind of wary about using Tempest this early, though. Because I could just play a second Silverguard Knight here instead. How would I get punished? By playing a second Silverguard Knight. It's fine. I'm Zir'an, right? So I just want to, get bodies on the board. Rather than be super proactive against our opponent. Because if I can get a board established, then, you know what I mean, I just run away with the game. So right now I've got 2 big provokers. He's getting scared off to the corner. And I get to save the Tempest to deal with Cannon of Mechazor. Yes. I also have Lucent Beam. And that's his whole play. Cannon of Mechazor is a 3-mana 2/2 range unit. So if you deal with it efficiently, your opponent is really, really screwed. So let's see. I've got Afterglow. So if I do Tempest, then I can punch the Silverguard Knight into the Sojourner. And you'll notice he didn't attack with the Sojourner here because he's pretty low. So I could make him mill a card here. I could make him mill a card. And then just develop the Healing Mystic and then Lucent Beam instead. Yeah, so we'll just punch here. Punch here. That's pretty good for us. Mills the sword. Because I could Tempest here, but I think the Lucent Beam is a little bit better. Because there's a chance that he'll try to flood the board, especially when he pulls Mechazor out. Yeah, so we'll just Mystic our Silverguard, and then Lucent Beam that bad boy. We're going to save Afterglow, because, you know, Silverguard being a 3/4 or a 3/5 isn't that good for us. And getting these 2 Silverguard Knights on the board is really, really good for us. I think I should start hard replacing for Sunbloom. That's definitely the misplay that I've been doing this whole time. So Chassis is part number 3, and that's his whole turn. We can trade in the Mystic and then Tempest to kill that thing if we want. Actually, we can Sunrise or Afterglow. Excellent. So we're going to throw the Circle of Life. I dig it. So we move the Healing Mystic forward, play the Sunriser, then we punch. Then we move forward and Afterglow. So you can see our win condition is like really coming on strong here, where our opponent is just trying to get his Mechazor up, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to get a board established. He hasn't been dealing with my minions at all, because having just the cannon to follow up on that turn, and then like Frigid Corona just to stop my momentum, isn't enough. Because I don't need to immediately reach you with my minions as Zir'an. I just need them to be on the board. And of course, he needs to Chromatic Cold the Sunriser. That is correct. Because otherwise, I can just start comboing and AoEing anything that he summons. He's still 2 parts off of Mechazor. The fact that he milled that Sword of Mechazor is, again, really solid for us. If he makes the mistake of throwing Mechazor in a corner, we Sunbloom it, and then we win. He has to rely on Heartseeker or something. What's he got? Gravity Well here, looks like? Yep. We have Tempest. So I think I actually Tempest here. What does Tempest get me? If he plays another 2-drop, I'm definitely going to Tempest. Yeah. Yeah, and then we have Ironcliff here. We're gonna punch with this Silver Guard, and we're gonna leave this one up because he'll have Warbird, and that way if he Warbirds, this one is still alive, and he'll have to hit it with his General to clear that. Whereas this one, you see, he'll just have to punch. Alright, so things are still looking pretty good for us, because he's taking damage here. So we've got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage with the Lucent Beam. Yep, so there's Mechazor. A little bit too late, my friend. Oh my god. So let me see, we've got 3, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, Lucent Beam because we Afterglow. Perfect. We could also BM with Trinity Oath into Lucent Beam, but I think the Afterglow, you know. It's not every day you get to use Zir'an's Bloodborne spell. Oh my god, I remember when Zir'an's Bloodborne spell first came out, you couldn't restore 3 health to any minion. You can only restore HP to friendly minions. So it took away a lot of the utility. In clutch situations, sometimes you are able to heal enemy minions, and that way you can proc your Sunriser and your Lucent Beams. And that, again, is why I love that card, is because either it's just an early game removal for small range units and stuff, or it becomes a late game, that little bit of extra burst damage that we need. So, whew. I just got done talking about how I hadn't really been running into Vanar all like that, and so then we see the Arcanist and we see the mech come through. But not as strong as it used to be, not as prominent as it was before, hopefully, at least in my experience so far on the ladder. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know what decks you would like to see. Would you like to see more Zir'an? Because I've been playing my pet decks lately. I've got my Zir'an, my Sirocco Sage, my Vesper Fae. I've also been playing King Onyx's aggro Kalios that he had recently shown off on the subreddit. So definitely subscribe to King Onyx. He's got a YouTube channel. He's super cool, the Kalios god. But at any rate,